Welcome to Hannity. We have huge news tonight regarding Hillary Clinton and her private email server. Could the explosive new information actually send her to jail? Well, we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But first, can Donald Trump's momentum be stopped? The Republican frontrunner continues to now surge in popularity among potential 2016 voters. Here to break down all the latest is Fox and Friends' first co-host, our friend Ainsley Earhardt. Ainsley.
Hey, Sean. Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? The big question this week has been, how would Donald Trump do in the polls after some very strong debate performances from his 2016 rivals? And the answer is not much has changed for the billionaire businessman. 4 polls out earlier this week bring some very good news for the Trump campaign. In the latest national poll from Rasmussen, Trump holds the top spot with 17% of the voters saying he would be their pick for president. That is a very strong lead over Senator Marco Rubio and Governor Jeb Bush, who are tied now for second with 10%. In the very important state of Iowa, which we know can make or break a lot of campaigns, the new CNN ORC poll shows that Trump is in first place with 22%, while Dr. Ben Carson sits in second place with 14%. Now, things are a little bit tighter in New Hampshire. A Franklin Pierce University Boston Herald poll has Trump beating Jeb Bush by 5 points with 18%, while Ohio Governor John Kasich comes in third with 12%. And finally, Sean, this might be the most important poll number so far for Donald Trump. The new CNN ORC poll asked Iowa voters which candidate they thought would be able to change the way that Washington works. And as you can see, Trump dominates this area with 44%. The rest of the candidates fail to crack double digits. So, Sean, we're going to be keeping a close eye on these polls as they continue to change. Back to you.
All right, Ainsley, I think that 44% number is going to be huge. We'll see that, I think, more of those numbers in the future. Thank you so much. Now, it looks like we are seeing voters moving toward the outsider, the insurgent candidates like Donald Trump and Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina, also Senator Ted Cruz. They've all been rising in the polls. Many feel that they're the ones most dedicated to fixing our broken governmental system, and some of their campaign events, well, it's tough to argue. Just watch this, for example.
They said Donald Trump has too strong a tone. Too strong. We have heads being chopped off because they're Christian in the Middle East. We have borders where people are being killed all over. The world is cracking up, and they're worried about my tone.
That there's a bipartisan corruption of career politicians in both parties who get in bed with the lobbyists. If you think we need to bring power back from Washington to we the people, that's what this campaign is all about.
The highest calling of leadership is to challenge the status quo. We need someone who can challenge the status quo of Washington, D.C., not someone who's been in the political process all their lives.
And we have to change the direction of our country, and we have the ability to do it.
Here with the analysis, we welcome him back. It's been a long time. He's been someplace, I don't know, far away. Anyway, welcome back. Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and what a remarkable opening of the show.
You know, can we argue this early, we're 5.5 months away from the Iowa caucuses, that this is the year of the insurgent? When you look at the poll numbers of Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina and Bernie Sanders. What do you think?
Look, I don't see any way that the Washington establishment can avoid the reality. I just took Fiorina, Trump, and Carson, and in Michigan, they're now 47% of the Republican vote. If you add in Ted Cruz, it's over 50% of the Republican vote. I mean, what you have is a nation which is fed up with politics as usual, business as usual, government as usual, and they are sending some of the strongest signals I've ever seen. And you're exactly right. Sanders is sending a very similar signal in the Democratic Party. He now leads in New Hampshire. He had 27,000 people in Los Angeles the other night. Over the weekend, he had a total of 70,000 people in Washington State, Oregon, and California. That's pretty amazing turnout this early in the campaign.
Let me show you just one little snippet of what I think might highlight exactly what it is that I'm talking about here in terms of insurgent candidates. This is Donald Trump. Short video, Instagram, ripping Hillary and Obama for having fun while the world is burning. Watch this. Politicians having fun on our dime. Jihadi John holding a knife, Obama playing golf, Benghazi burning, Hillary and Bill dancing. This seems to be resonating. Reaction.
Well, I think it does resonate. And I think what's happened is people have also been through several cycles where politicians campaigned and said they would change things, but they didn't change things. And if you look at the governorships, for example, you see a lot of places where people have made real changes and where the governors are actually pretty popular as a result. And by the way, a lot of those governors are businessmen. This is one of the things to notice about both Carly Fiorina and Donald Trump, and for that matter, in terms of being a professional outside politics, Dr. Carson. People around the country have elected governors with no political experience who were very successful in business. Look at Michigan, look at Illinois, look at Florida, look at Maryland. And I think it's because people want somebody who can get things done.
I don't know if you had a chance to see the interview with Donald Trump from earlier this week. He got into more specifics on immigration, on Mexico, on tax policy, on ISIS, on healthcare savings accounts. That had been a big criticism, even in the Wall Street Journal, giving very specific answers. Does that help him?
Well, I watched that on the interview with you, and I thought to myself, here's a guy, for example, I hadn't really thought about it, but here's a guy who has spent hundreds of millions of dollars buying health insurance for all of his employees. He knows a lot about health insurance and a lot about the cost of health care. I was very impressed.
Let me go to the Democratic side of the ledger here. Let's look at Bernie Sanders. This is the New Hampshire poll, the Suffolk poll that came out, Franklin Pierce University, Boston Herald poll. And look at this. If you go back just to March, Hillary was up by 37 points. She's now down 7, 44-37. That's outside the margin of error. I'm going to get into the Clinton email server scandal in a second here. Bernie Sanders got 28,000 people in Los Angeles, 28,000 people in Portland, Oregon. Is he, as a 73-year-old socialist curmudgeon, now a threat to Hillary Clinton?
I know somebody said to me a while ago, actually Alex Smith of the College Republicans said, he represents the Woodstock generation. That this is and of course that's not very far from Vermont, that this is the gathering of all of the old left. This is their last great crusade, and here's one of them. But remember, in the Democratic Party, a true believing socialist has a 35 or 40% base. So any Democrat who takes Sanders lightly may find out by next summer he's their nominee. And Hillary is a decaying commodity. You know, I always knew she would decay because of corruption, because you can't allow Bill to be near $2 billion and not expect some level of corruption. I never thought they would be as arrogant and as stupid as I'm sure we'll talk about in the next section, in next segment, in terms of what she's done with her emails. I mean, this is so dumb and so beyond any reasonable defense that I think it's just going to keep grinding her up every week.
All right, last question on this part, then we'll get into the email server issue. Do you see a scenario in which Donald Trump can become the nominee, or Ben Carson or Carly or Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders on the other side? Is that, in other words, does this defy conventional political gravity?
Look, you've known me a long time, and you know how much I've studied this business. In the end, the American people are sovereign. If they end up deciding they want Donald Trump, or they want Bernie Sanders, or they want Carly Fiorina, or they want Dr. Carson, they're going to run right over the establishment. Anybody who tells you it can't happen knows nothing of American history. In America, the people actually do decide in the end, not money, not media, the people. And it's fascinating to watch.
You know what?
But I think you're seeing something historic.